welcome to session number 5, I believe, of 002. And again, thank you for coming, and those of you who have been coming here, thank you again for continuing your support. We will press on tonight with another very important theme related to partnerships, because as we call it, the age of partnerships is the age of co-petition rather than competition. And I shall say a little bit more about this in a few minutes. And we're delighted to have two friends of the university and two personal friends to me. I mean, we've got Chris Mitchell and Jack. Shall introduce them in a little bit, who will talk to us about partnership and perhaps using some of the ideas that Fujitsu has been trying to pioneer over the years. So a very important theme and very much at the heart of best practice management, because I believe personally that in the digital age, no organization around the world can be said to be fit for competition unless it has very good partnerships. Value management, value chain principles require any organization to, whether it's upstream or downstream, to work with partnerships. So, let me just put this into the context before I hand over to Chris. You remember the saying, the big eats the small, basically. I mean, that was the nature of business maybe 10 years ago or so on. But now, obviously, things have changed considerably, and it's about speed, isn't it? I mean, if you're not fast, you're dead, as some of the gurus will tell us. So size is irrelevant. It's size of impact rather than size of the organization, its employees, and its ability basically to perform. So speed is at the heart of competition. And as I said, what does competition mean nowadays? I mean, competition in many industries is dead as a word. Competition will exist in spirit, but I guess it will exist in the form of what we call co-petition. In other words, industries need to preserve themselves. I mean, you can look at the oil and gas industry. There is fierce competition in exploration, for example, but it's not unheard of BP Amoco to work alongside Exxon or Shell, basically to make sure that they will coexist. And I'm sure that Chris or Jack will refer to what is going on within their own industry, because the industry has to preserve itself. We compete fiercely in the marketplace about gaining and maintaining our customer base, but we cannot jeopardize our future as an industry, because we want to exist, we want to be around. So that is the principle of co-petition. But it is a form of competition which is in spirit. What I want to do in the context of that is to talk to you about managing partnerships, if you like, to enable an organization to be cost effective and to be optimized in its value adding principles. And I think the starting point perhaps is internal management, which is the supply chain. Supply chain really is an input to output process. It's managing raw materials, or managing raw data, or managing, if you like, some customer needs from a tangible perspective, and translating those needs into tangible output, whether it's a product or a service, or that stage. But it's the internal aspects of managing the conversion process that I would like to concern myself with for the next few minutes. So I think supply chain management is one of the fastest growing fields of management. It is, for example, now even pervasive within hospitals, within healthcare, because it is the best means for a business to integrate the various activities and tasks and to manage cost, because cost is value, isn't it? If you don't manage costs well, the customer will suffer at the other end. If you manage costs well, if you manage seamlessly, if you manage with speed and time, the customer will benefit. We cannot, if you like, continue with the mentality of throwing it over the wall. and managing silos. So integrating the various activities by forming a supply chain is absolutely critical for any business. And I guess every organization replicates the same cycle, because suppliers upstream have to manage, if you like, the process of acquiring, converting, delivering, etc., and then that replicates itself. When you put all those supply chains together, you have an extended value chain, supply chain that becomes a value chain, because it's all driven by the customer, isn't it? So I think that understanding, if you like, is now taken very seriously, because people see the benefits immediately. And I have one or two slides to show you the real benefits, and all the surveys concur on this one. I think the days when we used to look at one portion of managing the supply chain, i.e. logistics, buying, for example. I mean, you tell me how many organizations that you know of that still use job titles like chief buyer or chief, whatever. It's an ugly word, isn't it, all of a sudden? There are people who used to have a lot of power because they really decide where the organization is going to source its requirements from, and which contracts are going to be signed with whom. Those days have gone, and those kind of jobs do not exist anymore, because logistics is just a subset of managing the value chain. It's just a process of acquiring, sourcing. But the added value, if you like, is also downstream. It's taking those raw materials and converting them for the customer, and then downstream even further is the delivery processes, managing the logistics, the outbound logistics, and so on. So please understand that supply chain management is not logistics. Logistics is one subset of supply chain. And we need also to distinguish between two types of logistics. Inbound logistics, which is about sourcing, outbound logistics, which is about shipping, delivery, warehousing, and so on and so forth. I think, to me, and this is the bad news again, supply chain is still not enough to give you the competitive advantage. It's about reacting to the actual customer demand, which is the right thing to do. It's doing what the customer wants you to do. But it is focused strictly and simply on pushing costs out and bringing value in by, if you like, doing the things that the customer is willing to pay for. But pushing the costs out is absolutely important from the point of view of any business, because if you pass it to your suppliers, they will pass it to the second tier, the third tier, and so on. You're creating an extended value chain, and everybody is focused on streamlining the activities and adding value to their customers, your customers, and their customers, and so on and so forth. So I think we learned a lot from this principle. And as I said, if you want to see the real benefits of redesigning, realigning business functions, a series of functions to create a supply chain, let me share with you the experience of these three leading organizations. They're quoted in all the textbooks. They're representing the retail sector and the computer industry. But these three magnificent performers outperform their key competitors and deliver immense value to their shareholders. And in the space of something like 8 years, for example, Walmart has exceeded, in terms of growth, real tangible growth, have exceeded, if you like, industry average by nearly 250%. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it? Coca-Cola by 500%, and Dell Computers by 3,000%. Whether that makes sense or not. But I mean, I will share with you the Dell thing in a little bit more to see why is it that they have grown so significantly, because they have learned to manage cost. Cost is somebody else's problem, so I pass it to somebody else. They will take care of it. What I'm interested in is the value that my customer expects from me. And this is at the heart of partnerships. See, you cannot do it without partnerships. So if you just want to see whether supply chain management as a concept pays off. These are the industries. You've best in class, basically, who are in blue, and then you have the industry averages. Everybody benefits, of course, but you can see the cost advantage in the automobile industry is 4%, because the automobile sector has got more significant experience than anybody else. They have got over 20 years or so of working in partnership. When I researched the way the automobile sector is handling their suppliers back in the 80s, in the mid 80s, and they have transformed themselves. Now the power, funny enough, is in the hands of the suppliers, not the automobile manufacturers. On average, 70% of the car is built outside, on average. It could be 80%. So I think we have turned the concepts upside down. I think people start to realize that cost is a tumor. The more you combat cost, the more benefit you can pass to the customer. And we can see it. I mean, look at the cost of a car 10 years ago to what it is now. Look at the speed of manufacturing of a car 10 years ago to what it is now. Look at the real value added, the tangible value added that you get now compared to 10 years ago. But if you wanted to look at some benchmarking data about industry-specific cost advantages from supply chain, here are some industries. And again, this is another survey, this is a 1999 survey, and it tells you about what are the benefits. Delivery performance, because you're consistent. Inventory reductions, because you have partnerships. Suppliers will do it on time. They will bring it to your stock. In the retail sector, basically, they used to say delivery to dock. Now it's delivered to stock, delivered to shelf, and it's triggering small quantities as you need them, and so on and so forth. So no need for you to incur costs, because you have a reliable partner who will take good care of them. Up to 60% inventory reduction. A cycle time up to 50% reduction, because you're compressing all the time. And productivity, all the fill rate, because turnarounds, and capacity utilization, because you don't have rework, you have reliable suppliers. Remember, you have synchronized activities working together, and therefore you don't have stop and start things, and loads of wonderful things. So supply chain is really at the heart of creating a world-class competitive advantage. And again, this is another survey. You can see that they all concur with the same message. The advantages are significant, and particularly time, and particularly inventory reductions. Now, the one thing that I have to say, and maybe my colleagues here will disagree with me slightly, is that IT is not the starting point. IT is an enabler. The starting point is the process. The process is not just on paper, it's the behavioral mindset, the mentality. You have, first of all, got to commit the organization to working differently. That's the biggest challenge. Once you do that, you can then say, how can I enable these people basically to operate a seamless, horizontally focused process, and have the right information in the right place, the right format, and so on. But I think I have seen a lot of surveys and the promise of IT solutions, and unfortunately people realize very quickly that this is not the way to get cost competitive advantage. You fix the business first, and you let technology take off the rest. But you cannot do it the other way around. It's nothing off the shelf. It's all hardware. It's all about behavioral mindsets. So, for example, this is a survey from the American Productivity and Quality Center, which looked at best practice in supply chain management. And 80% of the cases have all said the same thing. We had redesigned processes. We have world-class, refined, systematic, mapped, well-documented processes, and we enabled all of them with IT. So I think at the end of the day, it is integrating the skills and the competencies with a clear focus, if you like, from the top, from a strategic perspective, with an orientation towards the customer, and highly enabled with IT. So the message is very clear. You need IT to be world-class with supply chain. The IT is not just for the internal side of the organization, incidentally. How can you manage partnerships without IT? What are the protocols? What is the dialogue? What is the communication? You know, I mean, now, for example, in supermarkets, you see, when everybody goes home, you know, the technology is replenishing the shelves, you see. So somebody puts a little device by saying, I need to have 20 of these boxes for tomorrow morning, please. And all that information is relayed to the partners, those who really support the retail industry. And when we come in the morning, everything is replenished, everything is delivered, everything is fresh, and so on and so forth. So that is significant. The technology is the wire that meshes the various entities together and gives, if you like, win-win to everybody else. Again, the American Productivity Equality Center survey has really highlighted the significance of having these partnerships. All of these firms, and I think there were something like 53 of them, they were all saying the same thing. You know, we have bottom line improvements of up to 40%, in some cases 10%. So partnerships pay dividends. You know, it's win-win. We have done some work on partnerships, a benchmarking project for 9 Unilever companies. I haven't got time to talk to you about this, except to say that, you know, this is the structure of the defining a partnership. I mean, it's win-win. It's looking at what you need, but what your partners need. That needs to be defined very clearly at the beginning. It has to have a series of parameters. You know, strategy, vision, the resources required, the competencies that you bring to the pot, and basically, you know, how you're going to put the synergies together to work on each front. How you're going to measure the benefits of partnerships, where you're going to start from, how you're going to guide and develop that relationship, and how do you ensure that you're not going to be distracted and you're going to manage the relationship very well. So we have produced for Unilever a document, and I'm going back a few years now, I think in '93 when we did it. And hopefully it has helped them. They haven't come back to me and said whether it has worked or not, but I know that in those, 1993, this was a pioneering project. Now it's routine, obviously. So it's really about win-win. It's about transparency. It's about communication. And it's about wanting the other partner to grow and prosper, but not the lose-win kind of scenario. I think we're learning this from the Japanese experience, because the Japanese have always competed on partnerships. I mean, they have these karetsos and zabatsos, families of partners working at different levels, managing different tiers of the extensive value chain that exists. So you have thousands of little, you know, like the ants, the army of ants, you know, they all work hard together, shifting little bits. But when you look at what ants can do together, it's very impressive, isn't it? That they shift little bits at a time. So these karetsos and zabatsos, the principle in Japan, has obviously made Japan supreme for many years. I think at the heart of partnerships, and I'm sure that this will be echoed by Chris and Jack, is that cheaper is not the best. You know, you have to look at what other things that your partners bring in. And it is acknowledged that there could be something like 65 business criteria, rather than price, which define relationships and you know, the strength of those relationships in delivering competitive advantages to all the parties concerned. 65. A lot of them are soft, they're intangible. A lot of them is, you know, could be a simple factor as riding high on a strong brand. It could be something like, you know, going to untried territories, you know, competing in a new market that we haven't tackled before, but on the strength of the existence and the experience of our partner. So things that we don't give value to now, but which many industries have found to be very useful to them. And just to realize the benefit of a partnership, I mean, I'm saying here, imagine 100% of your most important customers saying to you, guys, this is where we would like to go in the next 5 years. And and how can you help us? How can you work with us? It's wonderful, isn't it? So that's the meaning of transparency. Tell me where you're going, tell me your journey, tell me your destination, and I will try my level best to shadow you or work with you or pave the way for you so that you make that journey in a smooth fashion and you reach your destiny with success. So it's not just saying, I want to optimize internally, I want to be efficient. It is about waste, yes. It is about the flow of conversion of value added, but it is a continuous, dedicated, committed effort to creating value, creating seamlessness, learning to do things differently, learning to do things better. And at the heart of that drive, basically, is always to fulfill the needs and requirements of a customer down the line. I mean, you can see, and I'm depicting this in various ways, but the message is the same. You have different levels of building this seamlessness, and this chart will tell you the complexity of managing this value chain. The horizontal focus is always on the customer, that's a must. The activities have to complement each other, so we're creating the value chain. What goes down, if you like, from a need to a delivery is the tangible product or service that the customer wants on the right hand side. What goes up from the customer is what we call reverse product flows, which is purely and simply the feedback from the customer, the intelligence, the further needs. So it's required. You replenish a need, you find a new need, or you try to replenish a need, you get feedback about where the adjustments and improvements need to be made. On the left hand side, you are transferring capital goods, you are bringing back cash flow, of course, it's dotted line, but also you are managing in a synchronous kind of fashion through the flow of information. And information, as we know nowadays, is the key asset, isn't it? It's not just a capital physical asset, but it's that CRM, knowledge, databases, because as Dell have done it, Dell basically don't have physical assets. What they have is very good knowledge of the customer base that they have. Again, I'm going to be boring by depicting more and more the process mentality, basically, of what a value chain is. A demand generation process is about what the customer wants. A procurement process is about the starting point for the supply chain. A translation process, like a manufacturing process, is there. Outbound logistics, fulfillment, order fulfillment, and so on and so forth. And here's another way of depicting it. It tells you about how the mentality of each process works. I mean, for example, a process that is concerned with making something, the know-how is about how these products are made, and what are the procedures and the policies that we need to pursue, and what is the know-how that we need to basically demonstrate in order for us to be world-class at manufacturing, for example. And each process has a definition. But each process is not enough, because what the customer does at the end of the day, they look at the overall experience with your business. They will say you're lousy because maybe one sub-process has let everybody down, but it reflects on the whole value chain. So it's all or nothing, Customer never says to you, your logistics process is okay, your salespeople are formidable, but I'm disappointed with your manufacturing people. They never speak like that. They speak about the organization, about the experience. So we must learn to manage the process. We have to get away from these prima donnas, this way of sub-optimizing. You present one activity as better or more important than others. So I think time has moved on. Let me just now basically tell you that 3 changes are fundamentally important for managing effectively and competitively supply chain. Now, you need to work in partnership, you need to grow the relationship, you know. It's like marriage, I guess, you know, and those who are married will know the pains, but also the gains of from marriage. You see, you manage a relationship and you try to preserve and safeguard the relationship, and hopefully every day is a smooth day. But yours was like that, was it? And with suppliers, with partners, it is business. You know, some days are tough, some days are smooth, and you try to synchronize all the operations so you're speaking from the same tune, and you share the same vision, basically. I think because again, like a relationship, you know, each party brings something to the pot. We cannot do everything as a person. I mean, part of marriage and relationships is to share tasks, responsibilities, the burden, if you like, of life. You know, somebody can't cook, he needs a partner who can cook for him or her, you know? And so on and so on. So I think partnerships are driven by the need to have something that will enable us, basically, and fulfills our levels of ambitions. We don't just have partnerships for the sake of having partnerships. We don't outsource just because we want to save costs. We outsource things that we don't need, but we will bring in, if you like, we source in the core competencies and expertises that will give us the synergy and the competitive advantage that we require. And I guess perhaps we'll talk a little bit more about this. Technology, the World Wide Web, will help us. And I said it, you know, technology is an enabler. This is one of the key areas. Supply chain management, value chain management, partnerships, forget it. Will not work unless you exploit technology. E-business is real. One of our mottos is virtuality is reality. You know, this is the real world. It's virtual way of communicating and managing it. I think, as I said, the other thing is no pain, no gain. Supply chain organizations must be restructured, must be re-engineered, must be reskilled in order to achieve these advantages. You can't try to fit, if you like, something that is too large or too redundant. You know, you cannot travel with the same old baggage. You know, supply chain management, modern ways of thinking require new skills, new competencies, but we must develop those. And number three probably is the hardest challenge for any organization, because it is not a quick fix. Either you buy ready-made skills and competencies, or you have to go through the painful experience of reskilling and redeveloping your people. Because change is the norm, change is painful, but if you want to survive, you have to accept that, you have to go through that pain. I remember Dr. Deming used to say, survival is not compulsory. So if you want to survive, you accept that the pain has to go with it. Today's cost reductions will be wonderful. Tomorrow somebody will say, yes, but somebody else can do it better. Somebody else can do it cheaper. Somebody else can deliver it faster. And you say, oh no, not again. But that's the world, isn't it? We will not stop. Process improvement is continuous. And as it says here, the competitive battleground is really to develop relationships with supplier partners, because the emphasis is going to be on agility. Agility is anticipation. It's really trying to combine different mentalities, trying to have a schizo mentality in many ways, because the customer says, give it to me new, innovate. Give it to me quick, basically agility. And give it to me right first time, quality. All together, very difficult. But that's what the market wants. So in order to say yes to the customer, you may say, I don't have agility. Who else give me that bit, that strength that I can commit to the customer? I don't have speed. Who else can help me? So co-petition is really the order of the day. So collaborative work is really the only way forward. delivering superior standards of excellence to customers by sharing the experience, but also sharing the benefits. So, if you like, going back to what I said at the beginning, you see, it used to be the big who eats the slow, now it's the fast. The big eating the smaller, now the fast eats the slow. That is really at the heart of partnerships and supply chain. We're going to drive more and more with this speed, agility, quality, and innovation. And we're going to drop this mentality, if you like, of cost, and so on and so forth. I just want to finish with this by saying that from my point of view, we are really scratching the surface on partnerships. We are learning, if you like, about what can be done, the art of the possible. We are seeing some of the extraordinary benefits that have been documented and generated by those who have pioneered. But we have to continue to inject, if you like, the mentality of winning through sharing, winning through partnerships. And I guess those who are going to compete successfully in the future are those who are going to say, we have a strong backbone, we have a good supply chain, we have seamless approach, we have integrated technology within our business, we have online communications with our partners, we have good anticipation about what the customer wants and needs, we have transparent sharing of information, we have all the right protocols, and we have our fingers on the pulse, and we are ready, steady, and willing to go. So I don't want to say any more than that. I just hand it over now to Chris and Jack, who will tell you about the true essence of what partnerships are about, and they will speak from first-hand experience. So I'm going to introduce Chris, and then he will introduce Jack when the time is right. Value chain, get it? Chris Mitchell, we go back a long way. I mean, he can tell his own stories, it's okay. I looked at this and said, right, Chris, what are you doing at the moment? Obviously at the moment he's working with Fujitsu Consulting, and he has had some very prestigious projects and very, very challenging, and working with some good brand names like BA, the Home Office, for example. I think you did a project for the DTI as well, didn't you? In the area of technology solutions, basically. But Chris is a process man, so he understands the real place of technology from a process perspective, because all of his background has been in the field of quality with Westland Helicopters. And he grew with quality. He worked with quality circles, we worked with project improvement teams, doing little things like the basic tools of quality. And then he moved to the post office counters. And then he became more involved with systems. He has introduced ISO 9000 several times, so he understands the role of systems there. And he's been part of the original team that has introduced total quality management at Post Office Counters Limited. And then he made his name, basically, and that's where I met him. He made his name in the field of benchmarking. And he's been one of the very first pioneers of benchmarking. One of the things that actually Chris and his colleagues have helped the world with, and you will hate them for it, is what I called the surrogate industrial visit. Because at some stage, benchmarking came under a lot of criticism, because people described it as industrial tourism. In other words, fly your top management team first class, and they can go to Florida and then go off to Tokyo and play a little bit of golf on the way back and so on. What these guys have done, actually, they have benchmarked the first project in the world using a videotape, because seeing is believing. And as they were trying to book themselves in to go to Chicago to benchmark against a post office partner there, the partner sent them this badge, and they didn't have to pay stamp because they're a post office. And they said, no need for you to come over here. We thought rather than bother you, we will send you the whole story of our processes and how we have improved them, the as is and the after, by videotape, VHS tape. So we coined it as the surrogate industrial visit. And really that's something that we have worked together on. And obviously we continued the relationship since then, and Chris is doing great things, and he's a friend of the university. He's been here before, and he has helped us in various projects. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you here. I will hand over to you now to talk about partnerships, and then you can introduce Jack as and when you want.